Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'd like to start off with an animation here of infrared satellite temperatures. We're watching here a couple of larger storm systems in the Gulf of Alaska, and then one coming out of Mexico hitting parts of the southeast over the next few days. But there's an interesting bit of meteorology with this. Do you notice how we have these broad shields of cloud, like right here, and right in there, that are kind of moving out of the southwest toward the northeast? You then see the flow take a turn as it goes over the ridge and then comes pulling back into this area. See that? Why does it look like that? In other words, why do we have clouds building inside those ovals I drew, but then as it breaks over the top, do the clouds disappear? Well, whenever we think about the flow of the atmosphere, let me switch this over and draw it into white. There's a broader trough here that builds into a ridge like that. There's a broader trough here that builds into a ridge like this. Whenever we come over a ridge into the subsequent, the downstream trough, there's a large area of upper atmosphere convergence. That's where the air is gathering aloft and begins to sink. And as it sinks, it compressionally warms, reducing the relative humidity and evaporating clouds. Now, the reason why I take some time to explain that to you is California has been in the wrong position with respect to the trough ridge system for almost the entire month of January, now the beginning of February. And as a result, systems have run around the periphery, hitting the northwest, or they've stayed south of Hawaii and sent their moisture way here over into parts, starting in Mexico and then hitting south central United States through the southeast. So this split flow pattern has avoided California, and it's been problematic. Here's the way we can see that. Basin average snow water content. At the expense of California's change in the pattern, the Pacific Northwest has regained its normal numbers here in terms of snowpack for this time of year. A lot of 80 to 120% numbers. Same with the Intermountain West. Look over there in the Four Corner states. Those numbers are very good for this time of year. California, I've now seen the 4 reporting stations in the Sierra Nevada there at 60 to 80%. And that ridge that's been in place has really prevented that snowpack from continuing to build. My concern is maybe better seen in this satellite image. Grab this one from yesterday from some of our high-resolution satellites. See the snowpack there in California. I want to take you back 1 year ago, okay? Here's 1 year ago. Now, in Nevada, in Utah, there is quite a bit of cloud, so that's not all snow up in this area. But my focus is right here. You will see that if I go back to the previous image, right in this area, the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, look at how far down in elevation the snow is a year ago, or was a year ago, and what it is now. So it's very important. These two images are overlaid with one another to see the differences a year ago when we did not have this. We had quite a few atmospheric river events coming out of the southwest, slamming into those mountains a year ago. If we don't see a pattern change as we get through the month of February into March, this will be a critical loss of snowpack in the Intermountain West and in those Sierra Nevada mountains. So let's now see what the next week holds. Not much change. High pressure cell is firmly in place, and you can see how the precipitation kind of goes right around it. It hammers this area and it pulls around like that. And that particular setup is just not one that is going to be bringing in much precipitation to California. I do have some good news for you, though. Getting out into week 2, we are going to see the establishment of a deeper trough in this area. And with that trough being established, we will occasionally get these little short waves that kind of come sneaking around the broader trough, bringing in these little weak cutoff flows that come through California. And that's why if I take those drawings off there, we start to see in week 2 decent precipitation amounts building in the Sierra Nevada. Now that's a pretty significant change over what we've been talking about. Let's get to some of those details. You see, taking you out to day 10, so this is the evening of February 13th, let's talk about the things that have remained the same and some things that have changed. From my assessment yesterday, these things are all basically the same. The North Atlantic Oscillation, still positive. Arctic Oscillation, working with the polar vortex, still positive. In fact, it's retreating and gaining composure over Europe and Russia. Global winds are still strong, which means we're still getting this active storm track that starts here and races toward the northeast. But what has been changing has been the building end of this ridge over Alaska. Now, what we want to see is we want to see that build into the Aleutian Islands, not directly into Alaska or to British Columbia. And if it does that, what we end up getting is a flow pattern that does something like this. Okay? Now, the thing we'll be watching will be for short waves to come around this broader trough and eventually sneak through California, increasing our precipitation chances getting into week 2. Overall, this is still a drier pattern, but this is at least better than complete avoidance in terms of precipitation, what we've been seeing. But I'll be honest with you, with that deeper trough establishing itself in the west, while we're dealing with freezing temperatures in the Central Valley this week, I think it's going to be something we're going to see a few more times before we break out of this pattern by middle of the month. So let's come back to precipitation before I show you those freezing temperatures. Over the next 5 days, it's certainly going to be dry here in parts of California, Nevada, and Arizona, with much of the action coming into British Columbia, coastal Oregon and Washington, and then into the northern Rocky Mountains. Our rain shadow effect is very well established because when the flow comes in like this, it hits those mountains perpendicularly, and that is the best configuration for getting things to be dry in the Columbia Basin. But the Blue Mountains, getting into the northern Rockies, we're going to be adding it up. And if you just look over the next 5 days at total snow accumulation here, some of the peaks in the Cascades could pick up between 18 and 36 inches. Those snow elevations start out low today, but they'll move up to about 4,000 feet. We'll then see in the northern Rockies here in Idaho and Montana, similar story. Maybe the potential for picking up between 6 and 24 inches of snow, depending on elevation. But the elevation that we're talking about here is going to be mainly above about 4,000 feet. But we need to be careful through the passes. Do you notice that the snow extends all the way in through the Colorado Rockies here throughout this week? So coming back to that temperature discussion briefly, right in through here, into the LA Basin, southern parts of Arizona, we do have freeze warnings that are out. And to show you those temperatures, well, early this morning, we're going to be seeing widespread 26, 27, 28 degree temperatures in the San Joaquin Valley, even getting up into parts of the Sacramento Valley. Over there on the right, that's the minimum temperatures forecast for Wednesday. Very similar pattern. While we do moderate toward the end of the week, getting those lows back up above about 35, 36 degrees for much of the Central Valley, we do need to be on the lookout, though, for the potential for more of this as that broader trough establishes itself over the west. So let's now take a look at what we're anticipating in terms of precipitation. And there it is. There's our big high pressure cell. So as we play this one forward, let's pause it right here, step you back through the next few days. Tuesday afternoon and evening, see the snow spreading into the Cascades of Washington and then eventually getting into the northern Rockies there in Idaho. So coastal precip for Oregon and Washington over the next 24 hours here. Okay. As we move forward into Wednesday afternoon and evening, Thursday morning is here. Thursday afternoon, evening. Did you see the high pressure cell basically go nowhere? That's why through the end of this week, California remains bone dry and cold. All the flow is coming around the northern side. But by the time we get into this weekend, we're going to be watching for some disruption in that particular high pressure cell. And it's going to start here. If I step you back Thursday night into Friday morning, we see here a deeper low forming north of Hawaii and a second one going toward British Columbia. What happens? The high pressure cell temporarily slides out farther to the west. Now we like this because on Saturday morning, if the high pressure cell is sitting here, the flow will take that low and pull it this direction. So Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon and evening, getting into Sunday morning. Now look at that. I know it's not much, but that little coastal low comes onshore. Very windy conditions Saturday into Sunday for Oregon, Washington, but the low wants to spread into California. See it? And as it does so, I don't anticipate much precip in the Central Valley, but this will at least give us a chance for getting some snow to pick up here in the Sierra Nevada. Keeping moving forward, look at that again. See the high moving over there? When that does that, systems sneak around. Here they come. This is now in that week 2 forecast, finally getting in from a north to south trajectory. There it is. And those little shortwaves pull around. This is next Wednesday, Thursday time frame. So I'm pretty far out here in the forecast, but I've got good evidence to support this is going to be the change. Now, is this going to break us away and give us a wet pattern? No. But here's been the big difference. The drier conditions have moved from here to having a bullseye more there. And that's going to allow systems to establish in that trough And therefore, this drier bias we've seen from much of California into Oregon has now slackened a bit. It's less dry. And this is a map showing you the next 15 days of precipitation anomalies. Big snows piling up in the Intermountain West, though. And just to complete the story here for the whole U.S., extremely wet over the southeast as this trough, the bigger trough right here, lets the flow eject into this area. That is exactly what you saw at the beginning of my video, right? So let's finish this up by taking a longer term look at temperatures and precipitation. Days 5 through 10, as the trough gets reestablished, the whole of the west goes back over to a cooler pattern. As I get you out here to day 10 through 15, that is when we see the ridge really establish. The trough comes in like that, and we're going to be tucking away some bitterly cold air into parts of the western United States, specifically parts of Montana, going back over to a much colder pattern. My concern is this is spring calving time in Montana, so this could be a very rough go of it as we think about those cow-calf operations in that part of the world. Finish this up, released last night. This is the new February 15th to March 15th outlook. We see much of the same. We want to keep seeing this drier pocket moving west, though. I've noticed that in the last couple of model runs it's done that, and we've kind of slackened a bit on how dry things are anticipated to be here along the coast. In fact, I think it's actually biased too dry in parts of the Pacific Northwest, and I'm hoping it's biased too dry in parts of California. Let's get that drier air to move west, get the high to move west, get it set up right south of the Aleutian Islands, and we're back in business for getting our snow that we need to finish the season. Certainly, though, a colder pattern here, okay? With that, I'm going to wrap it up right here and hope you all have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.